The Fantastic Four: First Steps is the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the first movie to kick off Phase 6 of the MCU, and the latest film adaptation for Marvel's first family. This movie takes place in a different universe, separate from the one we're used to in the MCU. It takes place on Earth 828. It takes place in a 1960s retro, futuristic, Jetson sort of setting in the MCU on this Earth. The Fantastic Four, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm, they've been their superhero selves for a while now. They are famous saviors to this Earth. One day though, the Silver Surfer arrives to this Earth, informs everyone that Galactus is on the way to destroy the planet, and now the Fantastic Four have to figure out a way to stop Galactus from doing so. This was not just a movie that I was highly anticipating, but also a movie that I was very much rooting for. The MCU admittedly has been very hit and miss as of late, but if there was a project that I could have picked this year for the MCU to get right, it would have been the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four have been a staple to Marvel Comics, I want to say since the beginning, when Jack Kirby helped co-create them for the Marvel Comics. I mean, they are Marvel's first family for a reason, so naturally, this is something that you feel like Hollywood has wanted to get right on the big screen for a while, but just never has. I mean, in my lifetime anyway, we got the first adaptation in 2005, and admittedly, that's a movie you look back on now, and it's clearly not very good, but me seeing that movie when I was, 11 or 12, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun, silly, kind of absurd, but you know what? I enjoyed it for my age. I do remember Rise of the Silver Surfer coming out a couple years later, and even as still a young kid in that time, I always found that movie to be pretty meh, forgettable, whatever. And then more time went by, and we got Fant Four Stick, and that movie just, yeah. It's just, I think it's best we just don't talk about it. And even when Marvel announced that they would be making a new Fantastic Four, I was excited but cautiously optimistic, especially when I heard about some of the decisions being made. Namely when it came to the casting. I mean, originally we all thought for the longest time, we were all rooting for the longest time that John Krasinski was going to play Reed Richards. We saw him do it in the Multiverse of Madness. We all thought that meant, okay, he's going to be along to play Reed Richards for the long haul. Turns out he wasn't. It's actually going to be Pedro Pascal playing Reed Richards. And nothing against Pedro Pascal, but admittedly I am on the same page as everybody else where the guy's kind of been in everything and feels a little redundant. You're kind of just like, alright, is he just cast in this movie because he has the name apparently now? There were other casting choices I was afraid of. There were some rumors being leaked like, okay, is the movie borrowing some isms from previous MCU projects that used said isms and it failed miserably for them? It probably really started to wonder, it's like, wow, is this team of heroes just cursed? Are we never going to get a good movie for them? However, I'm here to say to you right now, not only is the Fantastic Four: First Steps the best, by far and away, Fantastic Four movie we've ever gotten, but it's the first one I think everyone can objectively say is a very good comic book movie. Delving right into the cast themselves, and I'm gonna start with Pedro Pascal, because as I mentioned earlier, nothing against the guy, but he's been in so many different projects, and when he was announced as the casting choice for Reed Richards, I was a little apprehensive. Everyone else though, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, how do you say his name? Ebon Moss-Bachrach. I probably fucked that up, but I liked him. Get more into that in a minute, but yeah. Pretty much all of them I was cool with, I could see it, I was confident in, but Pedro Pascal, I thought to myself, okay, is he actually the right choice for this role? But yeah, really gotta give credit to Pedro Pascal where it's due. Although this guy is in a lot of projects, I do understand why he is, because when he commits to a role and he is passionate, maybe not necessarily about the character, but what he has to do, he's a really talented actor. And if I'm being honest, I thought he crushed it as Mr. Fantastic. Because in him, not only did he feel like the leader of the Fantastic Four, but in him, I could really feel Reed Richards. I mean, he had a vulnerability to him. He had a real human, emotional side to him that I thought was great because, namely with him and Sue Storm, there's a very personal storyline going on with them. So with them, you need to see, namely with him, you got to see a very challenged, emotional side to his character that I really thought Pedro Pascal honed into. And one thing that I think this movie really stressed to everyone, that I think again is conveyed in Pedro Pascal's performance, is the genius of Reed Richards. I mean, people forget this all the time. Reed Richards is maybe the smartest mind in all of comic books, not just in Marvel, but in all comic books. And think of all the genius, brilliant minds we've seen in the MCU so far. I mean, Tony Stark, Hank Pym, Bruce Banner, Shuri. Reed Richards trumps all those guys. So with that, you need an actor that can really convey the brilliance in Mr. Fantastic. And I thought Pedro Pascal really demonstrated that. You can see just how skilled he is in building certain technology or developing certain devices that seem impossible to create, but he's able to do it, and he's able to explain them in a way where not maybe you understand, but you can see how he's able to figure it out. I hope I'm describing this right, but he was able to demonstrate it in a way that only Reed Richards could show this type of smart. And through him, you always felt like, although there was a vulnerability and there was maybe a sense of worry in him with the threat that is coming for the Fantastic Four, you did believe that with him as the leader of this team, they would be able to pull it off. And I really love that his genius was really in the forefront here because, I mean, let's be real, his stretching power is probably the silliest one of the Fantastic Four, but the movie did a great job. It's like, yeah, he has all this flexibility and this shape-shifting and shit, but it is his brilliance that is probably his greatest power. And I loved seeing that. Also, Vanessa Kirby absolutely killed it as Sue Storm. I loved her interpretation. She's probably the best Sue Storm we have seen. Because not only do you see real chemistry between her and Pedro Pascal, not only did, you know, she and him feel like a married couple that really love each other and support one another, but she really stands out in this movie in a way that works for her. Not in the sense where she's being shoved in your face, where she feels like a girl boss that's just being shoved down her throat to make the men in the movie feel less than. But the movie did a great job at making her stand out in such a positive way that she felt like she was a big, important member of the team without overshadowing the other members of the team. Like, she clearly has this role as this sort of motherly, well, in Johnny's case, older sister figure, where she has this very caring side to her, but she also has this very determined side to her. You know, this almost overprotective side. Like, if she feels like people she loves are in danger, she's not afraid to go Mother Bear a little bit. And she has a monologue in this movie, given the side plot that's going on with her and Reed in this movie, where she addresses the people of the world, and she does it in such a way. She gives a very powerful monologue that I really bought into, and you could see it's what ultimately gets the people of the world to side with the Fantastic Four in a time where they don't know if they should be on their side. In a way, it's her setting that reminder. It's like, we have been your heroes this whole time, and we're not about to stop at that. And that is just something that I really actively appreciate with the Fantastic Four in this movie. For the most part, each of them had such an important role in this movie. It's not like this is the, you know, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman show, and then Human Torch and the Thing are just there. Everyone felt important. Shifting to the other characters, I thought Joseph Quinn was great as Johnny Storm. I thought he really captured who Johnny Storm was, because I think the issue that I've had in hindsight with previous Fantastic Four movies is Johnny Storm just kind of felt like the immature child in the group and nothing more. Like, he's this carefree little playboy, doesn't care about what's really happening to them, just wants to show off for everybody. Like, you almost wonder, like, what the hell he was really doing here to begin with. No, in this movie, I mean, yeah, he's still a joker, he's still a hothead, he's still pushing everyone's buttons every chance that he can, you know, having his little banter with Ben Grimm and his banter with Reed Richards, and even Sue Storm kind of rolling her eyes at her younger brother a little bit. But what I really appreciate with Johnny in this movie is he feels like an integral member of this team in what he discovers, namely in his dynamic with the Silver Surfer. There's a point in this movie where he encounters her and she conveys something to him, and he's wondering in his mind, what does that mean? And yeah, at first the characters kind of poke fun of him because of his playboy, you know, lifestyle and, you know, what he thinks of her in that sense. But as he delves a little bit deeper into this character and into who she is, he starts to realize, okay, there's more to what she said, and there's something to her that could contribute to helping the Fantastic Four later when it comes to saving the Earth. And as a result, he delves into something that's not necessarily something that takes genius, but it takes a lot of hard work and research and deciphering, and he's able to do that. And hell, when it comes to the heart of this movie, there are moments with him, not just between him and the Silver Surfer that I thought were really powerful, but there's things that go on between him and other characters. Well, I'm not gonna lie, there were moments with Johnny Storm that gave me the knot in my throat and made my eyes well up a little bit. I was not expecting that from the Human Torch. Shifting over to Ben Grimm and the Thing, I would say this is one of the weaker areas of the movie a little bit, because I do wish the Thing got a little more fleshed out as a character when it comes to the emotional side of him. Because obviously Ben Grimm underwent the biggest transformation of all these characters. He turned into a big rock and can't, switch his ability off whenever he wants to, He started off as human and now he's this. And not that he wasn't a character that I don't remember or anything like that. I loved his dynamic with, again, everyone in the movie, namely between him and Johnny. They have their playful banter. I think that's great. You once again absolutely feel the friendship and the dynamic between him and Reed Richards, which is important. I mean, those two are lifelong best friends. They should feel like that, and they did. But what I was hoping to see just a little bit more, and I understand these guys have been heroes for a while, so maybe it's something he dealt with in the past, but I would have appreciated seeing a little bit more of how he's coping with how he looks now. Because that was undeniably a storyline that I loved in the original Fantastic Four when he transformed into being what he was. I was kind of hoping we would touch on a little bit more of that in this movie. And we didn't really. And I will say, speaking of the emotional side, I do want to touch into Shia LaBeouf, the Silver Surfer in this movie, played by Julia Garner. This was, again, another casting choice that I was admittedly not a fan of at all. Like, I know Shia LaBeouf is a real character in the comics. She is a female Silver Surfer, so it's not like they completely feminized the character necessarily, but she's not the Silver Surfer that I know and all the other fans know. But I will say, I thought not only did Julia Garner give a great performance as Shia LaBeouf, but I really appreciated her as a character in this movie. Because again, not only does she prove to be an integral plot point in Johnny's storyline, but she becomes a very big plot point in Galactus. Because in her, you see the effect that Galactus has on the universe, on all these different worlds, on all these beings that are in this world. And her being his servant, you begin to see the effect that she's had on all these different worlds that Galactus has come to. You can see the effect that Galactus has had on her with her own past. As a result, it made the choice of going with Shia LaBeouf as a Silver Surfer. Not only did it make it make sense, but it also brought a more emotional tone into this movie. And I will say, I do wish, similar with the Thing a little bit, that the Silver Surfer was fleshed out a little bit more emotionally in this movie than we got. Because there is a moment where emotionally everything really comes crashing down onto her and it's really starting to affect her. And I feel like we could have delved into that a little bit more to make it hit even stronger than it actually did. But at the same time, that is a compliment that I really do want to give this movie, because this is the problem that a lot of people have had with the MCU. When they have moments where they're really going for an emotional hit home kind of moment, they'll usually try to crack a joke or they'll throw some humor in there that just doesn't feel necessary. It just feels out of place. This is the type of movie that wanted to go for the emotional home run hitters. This is a movie that wanted to make you feel something. As I will say, as a result of that, this is probably one of the less humorous Marvel movies in there. Now, this movie does have humor, but it's well-timed humor. It's not as cringy humor. But this is a movie that absolutely went for more of the emotional tone, and it completely worked with this movie. And a movie that, at its core, is about family, and in a lot of ways, feels like a family movie, should go for that. It's a direction the MCU hasn't taken in a long time, and I really appreciate that. And hell, speaking of directions that the MCU has not taken a long time, what I appreciate with the Fantastic Four, or this Fantastic Four movie, that I think everyone out there appreciates, is this is a completely standalone Marvel movie. The biggest complaint that everyone has had with the MCU for so long is every MCU movie that we have previously gotten, they require homework for you to fully understand them. Like I said before, I think the reason Thunderbolts, as good as that movie was, the reason it underperformed significantly at the box office was because it was a movie that required so much homework for people to fully understand. Like, in order to understand all these characters, you had to watch all these different shows and see all these movies, some of which were not among the best in the MCU, so why would people want to do all of this homework? The reality is they don't. I mean, I saw the Fantastic Four First Steps opening night with my fiance, and she's definitely not as big a Marvel fan as I am. I mean, other Marvel movies that I have shown to her, she's come up with a lot of questions because, you know, she didn't watch the movies or the shows that were required to maybe fully understand a movie, and as a result, I'm there explaining what everything is. We go and see this movie, it completely stands on its own, it's not related to anything else, and everyone fully just gets it. We haven't had a Marvel movie like that since, I don't know, Shang-Chi, I want to say? So the fact that we have one now, it's refreshing, it's nice. You can just go in and enjoy it. I also want to give big props to the visual effects that are in this movie. Everything, for the most part, really looked spectacular. I mean, the Silver Surfer, there were complaints about how she looked in the trailers. I thought she looked great in this movie, but I want to touch more on the space sequences in this movie, and Galactus for that matter. I mean, Galactus, played by Ralph Ineson, he is a very memorable villain. He is menacing, he's huge. He's what you want in a villain. He is intimidating. You see him and you're like, how the fuck are they gonna beat this guy? And I love what he brings to the Fantastic Four. He really presents them with a huge kind of dilemma. He says, I will destroy your Earth unless you give me something very important to you. Leaves them with a huge problem. It's like, do we even consider what he did? The people of Earth, when they learn about it, it's like, how could you choose that over us? It's like, what's gonna happen to us? It really brings a huge conflict among the Fantastic Four as a team. And that's what I love seeing right there. He doesn't just challenge them from a sheer force standpoint. He challenges them as a union, as a team. Leads to arguments among them, leads to debates about how they go about it. It challenges them, and I think that's great. But yeah, I just did my little spiel on Galactus. Getting back to the visual effects, yeah, again, visually, it looks amazing, and a lot of people out there have compared the space sequences, or visually how space looked in the Fantastic Four, to Interstellar, and I don't disagree with it, because this movie visually really did look that great at times. There's a chase sequence in space. Won't give away too much into it, but it looked pretty amazing. It was pretty spectacular. Can't remember the last time we saw visual effects that impressive in an MCU movie. Gotta be honest with you guys. Also, yeah, the music in this movie. I mean, Michael Giacchino's score in this movie is, again, probably the most memorable we've gotten in the MCU in a very long time. Like, I want to say, I think of like the best MCU scores we've got. I mean, the Avengers score is fantastic. The Black Panther score is fantastic. This one is also, conveniently, fantastic. But yeah, it has a little bit of a retro superhero vibe to it that just fits. And again, that's what I appreciated with the setting of this movie. It felt different. It felt like a retro 1960s space show a little bit. It felt like the Jetsons. I think that's great. Like, it didn't feel like anything we've seen redundantly in the MCU. This was such a fresh take on this new setting, on this new world. It was awesome to experience because it brought you right in. You felt sucked into it, and it was awesome. And I'll say, the final action sequence in this movie, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the stakes were high. Again, you're in a situation where you're not entirely sure how the Fantastic Four are gonna stop the threat that is incoming. It has great payoff at the end, and I'm not gonna lie, it leads to a very emotional ending for this movie. I will say though, this is not a very action-heavy MCU movie, which for me is a little bit of a bummer. I mean, in terms of seeing the Fantastic Four using their powers in full force, doing what they're doing, you don't get a whole lot of that in this movie. You get that in fleeting moments and parts. It's not really in full force until the end of the movie. But I do think there are parts in this movie where you see what they've done in the past, how they became heroes to everybody, or there are moments, you know, here and there where you're like, okay, I feel like there could have been a little bit more there, or they could have put in a little bit more there. And I think what I'm coming around to, what I think is the biggest flaw for me in this movie, is the fact that it is only around an hour and 55 minutes, and for some people that might be a positive, makes it one of those shorter movies in the MCU, but I actually think this is a movie that would have benefited from being longer. In situations like that, we could have gotten more moments where the characters fleshed out a little bit more of their powers, could have seen a little bit more of them in action as a team, taking out baddies, saving the city, namely against one character in particular that I thought could have gotten a little bit more screen time and a little more, you know, backstory. And like I said, there are characters like the Thin and the Silver Surfer where there's definitely a more emotional side to their characters that I think the movie should have given us to really hit us home with their characters. But again, it feels like that's missing a little bit in the story. But I'll say this much, if the biggest flaw that I have with this movie is that I wanted to see more of it, that is in some ways a compliment that I could give this movie, because in some cases, in a lot of cases I would say with the MCU, it's either you're thinking, okay, that didn't need to be in there, or they should have just changed that entirely. The fact that I wanted to see more of this movie, that's nice to see. So all in all, the Fantastic Four First Steps is exactly what I needed it to be. I think we all needed it to be. It's a really good comic book movie and a great representation of Marvel's first family. The cast for the Fantastic Four themselves, I thought all did a phenomenal job. I thought they all really represented these characters extremely well. They felt like a great family. The chemistry among all of them was excellent. I ended up really liking Julia Garner as a Silver Surfer. I thought Galactus completely worked as the villain of this story. I love the setting of this world. I loved the visual effects of this movie. This movie really does look spectacular. The score was great. The humor, when it was used, was effective. And the emotional aspect of this movie completely hits you in the feels. I love that it's a movie that can stand on its own. You don't need to do all this homework to really understand these characters or understand this world or the story. I do wish a few more things got fleshed out a little bit more. The action, while fun and exciting when it goes down, typically towards the end, I do wish we got a little bit more of it in this movie. But in the end, this is by far and away the best Fantastic Four movie we've ever gotten. It's definitely one of the better movies we've gotten in the MCU as of late. Is it the best MCU movie we've gotten since Spider-Man No Way Home? It's 100% in the conversation, I'll tell you that right now. And now for the million-dollar question that we can finally ask ourselves right now, or I can certainly answer right now. Is Marvel back? Well, as a great man once said,
yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm going to give the Fantastic Four First Steps an 8 out of 10, which absolutely makes this one worth buying on physical home media.
Shut up and take my money.
A couple really nice post-credit scenes too. One that's mainly made for fun, for laughs, but one that's got me very excited for the future of the MCU. Pumped to say I officially cannot wait for Avengers Doomsday. Was really hoping I'd be saying that by the end of this year, especially with what Marvel had coming our way. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.